Good morning, Cooper Academy. Welcome to another edition of Breaking News. And now here's your host, coming to you live from the office, Mr. Perez. Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News, where we tackle the hard-hitting issues impacting our campus here in the Cougar Country. I'm coming to you live this morning from my living room here in my home to bring you some exciting segments here on this edition of Breaking News. Today we're going to be learning about our IB Me segment as usual. IB Me, here it's a hit around Cougar Country. Don't start singing it right now because I know it gets on your teacher's nerves. And we've got to make sure that we save those nerves because we only have a few days before spring break. So teachers, we're almost there. Students, we're almost there. So our IB Me segment will also be recognizing our staff member of the month. Could be you, staff member. You could be the staff member of the month. We're also going to be going over a safety and discipline segment so that we're very clear about what expectations are at the end of the year. And then we'll also throw in some photos of you guys, of students who are involved in some cool things around campus. Without further ado, let's get started. Coming up next, our news segment. IB Me, IB Me, IB Me, IB Me, IB Me, IB Me, IB Me. Coming up next, our news segment. IB Me, 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 IB Me. Oh, welcome back. It's a catchy song. Catch it on YouTube, not on YouTube, on past YouTube. Move on to iTunes. Buy my new album's dropping. It's called IB Me. Self-titled release, IB Me. So welcome back to my favorite segment, hopefully your favorite segment as well, which is our IB Me segment. We learn about the learner profiles, learner attributes, approaches to learning that make us an IB school and to help us navigate this IB experience here at Cooper Academy. Now, each month we have a focused learner profile. This month happens to be open-minded. That's right, open-minded. Yes, that's right, open-minded. Now, what does being open-minded mean? Because many of us believe that we're open-minded, but if we really look at what being open-minded means, we may change our opinion, or maybe think a little bit more critically about that. So just have an open mind as you listen to what being open-minded means. So in your agenda, if you ever want to find out and look at that definition of open-minded, you can look in your agenda and it's in the bottom right-hand corner of your agenda. To be open-minded means that we critically appreciate our own culture and personal histories, as well as the values and traditions of others. The others specifically here at Cooper Academy are your teachers, staff members, other students in this classroom, and visitors to your site. Now, we seek and evaluate a range of points of views, and we're willing to grow from that experience. It's one reason why your teachers have you working collaboratively when you are in your classroom, when they ask you to speak to a partner at your table or come up as a group when you're working on some type of group project or group response, is because we're working on that learner profile of being open-minded. Now, this is very important as well for our social emotional health, because within our campus we have many people who have different values, traditions, personal histories, experiences, points of views on things that might be different than your own. And that's not really a problem if you have an open mind. So you may be sitting there wondering, Mr. Perez, how do you become more open-minded? Well, the opposite of being open-minded is being closed-minded, which means we only value our own personal opinion or our own values, our own personal histories, our own stories, our own points of views, and we're not willing to evaluate or understand other people's points of views or even listen to what they're trying to share. So I'll give you one strategy today that I want you to work on, because we can all work on this as adults and as students. Many times in communication, in order to be open-minded, we need to be open to receiving and understanding the information that people are giving us. So one of those issues that we have as teenagers and as adults, not just teenagers, is that we have a difficult time listening, okay? Not hearing. I think we can all hear pretty well here at Cooper Academy. So there's a difference between listening to understand and listening to respond. Okay, so I'm going to give you the difference. When you are listening to understand, you are trying to understand the perspective or the history or where someone is coming from. You're trying to understand their point of view. You may not agree with their point of view. It may not sway your own point of view, but you are willing to try to at least understand where that person is coming from, what they are trying to communicate. What values do they bring to the table at this school and in your life, okay? Now, if you're listening to respond, which is what many of us do, you're already formulating a response to whatever they're going to say. So they may say, I think that the sky is pink. And you may, in your mind, instead of even looking up at the sky and turning your head and looking up at that sky and maybe figuring out why they think the sky is pink, in your mind you're already figuring out a way to fire right back and say, no, it's not. It's blue. I saw it yesterday. It was blue. I know this because I'm smart. I read an article on Facebook, read all about it. And you're listening to respond rather than to understand where they're coming from. So in order to become more open-minded, to become a better IB scholar here at Cooper Academy, I challenge you, when someone is sharing information with you, either written through email or through text messaging or in person through the words that we say, that we're listening to try to understand what they mean. Because you may be missing out on that beautiful pink sky if you just turned your head to evaluate what they're trying to say and understand and listen to what they're trying to say. You may be missing out on a beautiful pink sunset that they're talking about and miss out on the beauty and wonder of whatever's happening in our atmosphere or in our sky, because you are so closed-minded that you can't see past your own personal views or understandings of what is taking place. So I'm challenging you to listen to understand rather than listen to respond. Now, I have to practice that my own self here in this office as I work as your vice principal, because sometimes when students come in to my office, they already assume that I've made a decision on what type of discipline or what type of consequences are going to be when they come into my office. That's not always the case. But if a student tells me, Mr. Perez, you're not listening to me, you're not understanding what I'm saying, I have to take the time too, as the adult as well at this school, to press pause on and take a time out from my busy schedule and really listen to understand what's going on, what's impacting that student, what is causing that student to do that. It doesn't mean there's not going to be any consequences. It means that I'm trying to understand where you're coming from when there's these types of misbehaviors in the classroom or situations that happen. So if I'm doing that as well, I also challenge the adults here on campus to listen to understand rather than to respond. It's easy to respond. That's the easy part. It's the listening to understand and to try to evaluate where someone's coming from, what their personal histories are, what their traditions might be, maybe their perspective on a situation. And so we're going to take a little time out to do that and challenge you all to do that as you are here in Cougar Country to really become the IB scholar that you were meant to be. All right. Thank you very much for the IB Me segment of Breaking News. I will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our Safety and Discipline Corner. I hope you enjoyed our IB Me segment where we went over our IB Learner Profile of the Month, which is open-minded. That's right, open-minded. And in order to be open-minded here on campus, there's a few things that we need to make sure that we are following so we can finish this school year off strong in terms of safety and discipline and behavior. To help you with that, last week during our discipline assemblies, all of you received a behavior discipline contract for expectations towards the end of the year. because like for 8th graders, you have your 8th grade dance or 8th grade formal, you have your wild water adventure trip, you have an 8th grade breakfast, you have all these cool things going on at the end of the year. But we wanted to make sure to help motivate you towards the end of the year that we have certain criteria for that to happen. Same thing with 7th graders on their trip to Blackbeard's, and 6th graders on their trip to the zoo, and also that fun day on the end of the school year. Now, there comes an issue though of what are the criteria in order to attend that. It's actually very simple. The first one is that you must maintain a 2.0 GPA. We'll be pulling grades on March 17th, so make sure that your GPA is above a 2.0. That's basically a C average. If you don't know what your grades are, you can check them through Atlas throughout the day, anytime, even at home. Make sure that you are keeping track, and also if you want to help, if you have questions that you can ask your teacher, like, hey, I'm missing this assignment, or how did I do on this? Is there a way to improve this on this assignment? Getting some feedback from your teacher so you can improve that GPA before May 17th. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is your discipline and behavior within the classroom. You should have no more than 2 office referrals. That means if you are sent to the office twice, either on a red slip, which is an emergency slip, that means you're doing something that's unsafe for the classroom, or you're getting an orange slip, which is a notification, which means you're going to be meeting with myself, Mrs. Teran, or Miss Abel at some point throughout the day. If you get more than 2 referrals, or an on-campus suspension, or a formal suspension, you are also on the non-privileged list for the end of the year activities. The other thing is also 2 tardies. That means you can't be late more than 2 times in the next couple months. You also cannot have an unexcused absence, more than 1 unexcused absence. So if you're sick, you can still call in, but if it's an unexcused absence, a cut, you're just not showing up to school, your parents don't verify where you're at, you have 2 of those, you will also be on that non-privileged list. The third thing, so grades, attendance, the fourth thing, attendance, behavior. The fourth thing is also any fines or obligations you have to the school. So if you damaged a computer here on campus and you were fined for that, and you have not paid your fine and replaced that item, because some of the things like our computers, just those pulling the little keys off your computer or cracking a screen, can be hundreds of dollars in replacement. So make sure you are when you get that a computer and you sign on, you're taking responsibility for that item. So make sure you're keeping good care of that technology so it can be around for a while here on our campus. Now, also, it's a signed contract. So you had to have shown that contract to your parents and they sign it and get it returned to us so you can be a part of the festivities at the end of the year. Now, more specifically, for some reason towards the end of the year throughout the United States, there starts to become an increase in misbehaviors regarding the issue of personal conflict. Now, most of our personal conflict here at Cooper Academy has to do with people gassing or making fun of each other or picking on people using words to hurt people. It used to be that sticks and stones may break our bones, but words will never hurt us. We used to believe that as a truth. We know that now that's not true. It's still true that, yes, if you threw a stick or a stone at my head, it's still going to hurt. However, we've now learned that over time, words can also be very powerful in impacting someone's social emotional health. So that means that the things that you say have an impact on the other people in your community. So we have people sometimes, okay, we'll call this guy John, we'll call this guy Carl. Sometimes at our school, John and Carl kind of joke around and think it's okay because at home, online, when they're playing video games, that they usually like to gas on each other, flame on each other, make fun of each other. They've seen it on Instagram, on a Vine, on a Facebook. So they start picking on each other and making fun of each other's blemishes or flaws. Now the issue with that is that when you do that in a public place, in a school particularly, it kind of skates the borderline of it being a bullying situation. Remember, bullying is intentional, repeated harm that someone causes to another person. So it usually starts off as joking here. Someone's in a classroom, oh yeah, look at your shorts, they're blue. Oh yeah, look at your shorts, they're green. And then it moves on to becoming more personal, where someone starts talking about someone's mother, someone's girlfriend, someone's grandmother, someone's start talking about things that are protected in our Discrimination Act, which are things like race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religious background, or some disabilities that somebody may have. Now, when you do that, you are basically breaking our harassment policy here in our district and at our school, which means that you're going to face very serious consequences, suspension, possibly expulsion if it goes as far as where it's harming someone's and getting in the way of someone's education. So we want, and on top of that, it does take away from people allowing themselves to be open-minded, because are you going to share in an environment where you feel like other people are going to pick on you, or they're going to point out your flaws, or make fun of you because of your religion, or whatever your background is, or traditions, or your orientation, or who you date? That becomes a very unsafe place for all students here on campus. And when that happens, good old Mr. Perez, Mr. Bald-headed Mr. Perez, has to step in, or other adults on campus have to step in and help mediate the situation and avoid a conflict from becoming physical. Because sometimes when you start saying words, it doesn't always end up in words. It can become sometimes physical, where people start wanting to get crazy here on campus, which can also result in a suspension. Because if you're fighting here on campus or to and from school, you can be suspended as well, which means that you can also lose your transfer here to Cooper Academy, because everybody's here on a transfer, and we want to make sure that we're very clear that we're making good choices and that we're reaching out for help from Mr. Perez or Mr. Yates or Mrs. Theran or Miss Abel or your teacher. If someone on campus is making fun of you, if someone is picking on you, if someone is just gassing on you too hard, if you feel like in a classroom, even you hear two people are being offensive, because you can also harass somebody else by the things that you're saying that are offensive to the people who are listening to the conversation. So you need to be on your best behavior towards the end of the year. This is a bully-free zone, and it's also a place where we're not going to tolerate people picking on people, or discriminate against other people, or make people feel uncomfortable by the things that they say, because words do hurt. The scary thing is that people who, what the research has shown is that students who have reported a high frequency of self-harm or wanting to hurt other people on campus have also reported that at some point they too were also a victim of either a verbal bullying, or getting picked on online or in person, or felt like there was a culture at that school where this was being allowed to happen. So we want to make sure that we keep our place safe. Guys, I'm sorry safety and discipline went so long, but it's just so important. I look forward to working out there with all of you here on campus. I'm going to go ahead and put my son's toys back, because he's probably going to miss them when he wakes up in the morning. But if you need to reach out to me, you can always come up and shake my hand and say, "Good morning, Mr. Perez, I have a problem," so I can help mediate the situation to avoid there being personal conflicts here on campus. I hope that wraps things up for safety and discipline. I will be right back. to one of my favorite segments where we recognize a staff member of the month. Well, in the month of open-mindedness, this gentleman has a very open mind about what it takes to be successful here at Cooper Academy. Our staff member of the month is Mr. Beck. That's right, Mr. Beck. Cheers to you, Mr. Beck, on being our staff member of the month. Mr. Beck recently coordinated our Cooper Academy golf tournament. He's been doing that for years now to raise money for you and your athletics programs. So one reason why you have such nice uniforms, and we're actually building a batting cage out there on the baseball diamond, is because of the hard work that Mr. Beck has put in to raise the funds necessary to do those things for you. Because when he puts his mind to it, his open mind to it, there is nothing that this gentleman can't accomplish. If you see Mr. Beck around on campus, give him a high five, tell him thank you for being the Cooper Academy staff member of the month. Congratulations, Mr. Beck. I'm proud to work with you. You put on a great tournament last week, and I look forward to the many years that you'll be here at Cooper Academy doing great things for kids here. So thank you, Mr. Beck. I will be right back to wrap things up. Share box, everybody share box, everybody share. Just doesn't sound right. Tell me something, box. Are you tired of holding rocks? Or do you need more? Is it chicken sandwiches you're looking for? Oh, sorry. You just interrupted me. I was doing my remix to my Sharebox song that usually goes like this. Sharebox, everybody Sharebox. Sharebox, everybody share. I was trying to have an open mind about it. I'm here to wrap things up, so I'm glad you guys are all here. Well, we went over our IB Me segment where we learned that the learner profile of the month is be open-minded. Yeah. We also went over our safety and discipline guidelines. Remember to follow those guidelines in order to have a successful end of the year, and also make sure that you are not using words to hurt people here on campus or causing conflict by the things that you say. Now, also, we recognize Mr. Beck, our staff member of the month. Congratulations, Mr. Beck. And also, we went over our, we looked at some pictures of you guys getting involved in something positive on our culture and climate corner. So, great job to all of you choosing to be involved in something positive. Hey, let's have a great few rest of the days here before spring break. And as always, go Cougars!